The year 1706 dawned with a palpable tension across the fields of Flanders. King Louis XIV, seeking a decisive victory to end the War of the Spanish Succession on his terms, urged his commanders to seek battle. Marshal Villeroy, a man of noble birth but questionable military genius, was tasked with delivering this crucial triumph. He led a magnificent Franco-Bavarian army, gleaming with confidence and the polish of parade grounds. Opposing him was the Grand Alliance, a coalition of nations united against French hegemony. At its head was John Churchill, the first Duke of Marlborough, a commander of unparalleled strategic brilliance. Marlborough's army was a polyglot force of English, Dutch, Danish, and German soldiers. Each contingent brought its own strengths and traditions to the field of battle. The campaign of 1705 had been one of frustrating maneuvers and missed opportunities. Marlborough was determined that 1706 would be different. Villeroy, overconfident, advanced his army towards the Allied forces, seeking the glorious battle his king demanded. On the 23rd of May, the two armies found each other near the small village of Ramillies. The battlefield was a broad, open plain, marked by the shallow valleys of the Little Geet River. Villeroy chose his ground, deploying his army along a 4-mile ridge. His left flank was anchored on the village of Ortre-Église, protected by seemingly impassable marshes. His right flank, holding the elite Maison du Roi cavalry, rested near the Mahane River. In the center, the bulk of his infantry and artillery occupied the villages of Office and Ramillies. This convex deployment gave Villeroy what he believed was a strong, commanding position. Marlborough, arriving on the scene, rode forward to personally reconnoiter the French lines. His keen eye immediately spotted a critical flaw in Villeroy's arrangement. The French convex line meant his own forces, operating on an interior line, could move faster between flanks. Furthermore, the marshy ground protecting the French left was a deception. It would hinder a French advance just as much as an Allied one. Marlborough's plan began to form, a masterpiece of deception and rapid movement. He would feign a major assault on the French left, drawing their reserves. The battle began around 1:30 in the afternoon with an artillery duel. Cannonballs tore through the packed ranks of infantry, a grim prelude to the carnage to come. Marlborough launched his feint, sending his British troops towards Ortre-Église. Villeroy, watching the sea of redcoats advance, took the bait completely. He ordered infantry reserves from his center and right to march to reinforce his left flank. This was a long, slow march, exposing the folly of his convex position. As the French reserves were committed, Marlborough played his masterstroke. He ordered his British troops to halt their advance just out of cannon range. Using a slight dip in the terrain, he concealed the withdrawal of his second line of infantry. These troops, hidden from Villeroy's sight, were secretly marched south. They were being redeployed to smash the now weakened French right and center. The real focus of the Allied attack was to be Ramillies itself. A massive Dutch, German, and Scottish force was assembled for the task. General Schultz led the initial assault with 12 battalions of infantry. The fighting in the streets of Ramillies was brutal and without quarter. Houses became miniature fortresses, each one fiercely contested. Simultaneously, the grand cavalry battle commenced on the plain south of the village. The Dutch cavalry, under Marshal Overkerk, charged the elite French Maison du Roi. Initially, the French horsemen, superior in number, pushed the Dutch back. Marlborough, seeing the danger, personally galloped into the fray to rally the Dutch troopers. In the swirling confusion, He was unhorsed and fell to the ground. French dragoons surged forward, threatening to capture or kill the Allied commander. His aide-de-camp, Colonel Bringfield, rushed to his side with a spare horse. As Marlborough mounted, a stray cannonball decapitated the unfortunate Bringfield. Shaken but resolute, Marlborough was back in command. He now brought up his redeployed cavalry, the troops Villeroy thought were still on the Allied right. Danish and Prussian squadrons slammed into the flank of the French cavalry. The Maison du Roi, caught between two forces, finally broke and fled. This was the turning point of the battle. With their cavalry protection gone, the infantry in Ramillies were doomed. The Allied infantry, smelling victory, redoubled their efforts. The famous Picardy regiment made a last stand in the village cemetery. But they were overwhelmed by the sheer weight of numbers. Ramillies had fallen. Villeroy, seeing the disaster unfolding, tried to form a new line of battle. But panic had taken hold of the French army. The retreat quickly turned into a complete rout. Marlborough unleashed his cavalry in a relentless pursuit. For miles, the Allied horsemen harried the fleeing French. Entire battalions threw down their arms and surrendered. French army effectively ceased to exist as a fighting force. The battle had lasted less than 4 hours. French casualties were catastrophic, with thousands killed, wounded, or captured. They lost almost their entire artillery train. Allied losses, while significant, were far lighter. The majority of the Allied casualties were among the brave Dutch troops who had stormed Ramillies. This was truly Marlborough's Dutch triumph. The news of the victory spread like wildfire across Europe. In Paris, the court was plunged into despair. In London, Amsterdam, and Vienna, there was wild celebration. Marlborough did not rest on his laurels. He understood that the true prize was the Spanish Netherlands. With the French field army shattered, the great cities were defenseless. Louvain, Brussels, and Antwerp opened their gates to the Allies. Ghent and Bruges soon followed suit. In a matter of weeks, Marlborough had conquered almost all of modern-day Belgium. The strategic consequences of Ramillies were immense. It was the most decisive and complete victory of the entire war. Never again would Louis XIV be able to negotiate from a position of strength. The battle cemented Marlborough's reputation as the greatest general of his age. His audacious plan, a blend of deception and force, was studied for centuries. The Dutch soldiers had proven their mettle in the fiercest of fights. Their assault on the village was the linchpin of the entire victory. The Maison du Roi, the pride of the French army, was shattered. Their flight from the field was a humiliation from which they never recovered. Villeroy fell into disgrace, his military career in ruins. He had been completely outthought and outfought. The Battle of Ramillies reshaped the balance of power in Europe, demonstrated the superiority of Allied arms and command. The sun set on May 23, 1706, over a field of victory and sorrow. The echoes of the cannons had faded, replaced by the groans of the wounded. But the echo of the victory would resound through history. The morning mist had given way to a clear, decisive outcome. Marlborough's gamble had paid off spectacularly. He had risked everything on his ability to move troops faster. The French army's confidence was replaced by utter despair. The Allied soldiers, a mix of nations, felt a new sense of unity. They had faced one of Europe's finest armies and destroyed it. The road to Paris now seemed tantalizingly open. The victory at Ramillies was a testament to bold leadership. It was also a testament to the courage of the common soldier. The Dutch infantry's sacrifice had not been in vain. Their fierce attack created the opportunity for the final blow. The battle was a symphony of coordinated movements. Every part of the Allied army played its role to perfection. The feint on the left was a masterclass in military misdirection. Villeroy's response was predictable, and Marlborough counted on it. The hidden movement of troops was the battle's decisive secret. The French command structure completely collapsed under the pressure. Orders were not received, or were impossible to execute. The Allied command, by contrast, was fluid and responsive. Messengers and aides moved with purpose and urgency. The capture of the French baggage train was a final, crushing blow. It contained the army's pay and Villeroy's personal silver. For the common French soldier, it was the ultimate symbol of defeat. The battle's legacy would be felt for generations. It secured the Spanish Netherlands for the Grand Alliance, and it broke the myth of French invincibility on the battlefield. The fields of Ramillies returned to their pastoral quiet, but the memory of the great battle would forever haunt the landscape. The Duke of Marlborough had achieved his masterpiece. The Dutch forces had earned their place of honor. French army had suffered a blow from which it would not recover. The War of the Spanish Succession had a new, decisive chapter to enter. The initial artillery barrage was a terrifying spectacle of noise and smoke. Soldiers on both sides braced themselves for the inevitable infantry clash. The British advance on the left was a textbook display of 18th century drill. Their disciplined march was designed to be intimidating. Villeroy's decision to shift his reserves was a fatal, unthinking reaction. The terrain's subtle dip was Marlborough's hidden ace. Redeployment happened with astonishing speed and silence. The Dutch assault on Ramillies was a brutal, grinding affair. Every street and garden was a potential death trap. The cavalry melee was a maelstrom of men and horses. The clash of thousands of sabers created a deafening roar. Marlborough's personal intervention showed his lead from the front style. The arrival of the fresh Allied cavalry was a hammer blow to the French. The French right wing simply dissolved under the unexpected assault. The rout was infectious, spreading from unit to unit. The pursuit phase of the battle was mercilessly efficient. There was no time for the French to rally or form a rear guard. The victory was so complete it stunned even the victors. The fall of the great cities confirmed the totality of the victory. Ramillies was a day of glory for the Grand Alliance.